Thanks to viewer voices, we have the TH45 in for review. Coming up in this tabletop review, you'll see what's in the box. We'll go over some notes from the manual, take a look at fit, finish, and features, do a field strip, look at chamber support, and talk about what'll be in the range video. Coming up next on GBGuns. Taurus provides a rather large and beefy case. We do have a hole here to be able to lock it. And inside, we've got our mandated lock, the pistol, of course, 2 magazines, speed loader, some additional back straps, and 2 copies of the adjustment tool for the sights and the manual. Before I get too into the gun, we'll go over what is in the manual. And I like to hit the manual because it tells us how much the company wants you to understand the gun. The better you know the gun, typically the better of a time you're going to have with it. Most of the errors and problems that I've seen on the internet with guns usually come from user error, and they're typically things that are covered in the manual itself. One thing that I always look for, because people always ask about it, and is definitely relevant to this gun, is whether or not you can use plus P. And Taurus lists out specifically which ammunition or which models are good for plus P and which aren't, as well as why, and that comes down to SAMI specifications. The TH45 has a 4¼ inch barrel, approximately. That's under 5 inches. 5 inches is the SAMI spec for a 45 ACP, meaning when you buy a box of 45 ammo and it gives you a velocity and a performance range that, say, your defensive hollow points might be expected to operate within, that's based off of a 5 inch barrel unless specified otherwise. This can run plus P. The rest of the manual uses full color photos, props for that, and even a page that is intentionally left blank. Gives me a flashback to Army manual days. Everything pretty straightforward and cleanly laid out, so props to Taurus for doing that. Full specs are here. If you don't want to try to strain through that and play the pause game, check the pinned comment over at gbgunsdepot.com. I'll have full specs as well as the full review and where you can find this stuff at what prices, etc. Let's take a quick look at those back straps. I highly recommend trying the different back straps. See slight differences here. They are labeled G and P1, which of course stands for insert answers here. But changing back straps changes how your hand fits the gun. That's not only important for reaching controls, but also important for recoil control and shooting performance. Let's get this thing out of here. I'll pull out the chamber flag and remove that sticker, and we'll take a look at the gun. This is of full size, as in my XXL hands fit all the way on the gun. We'll check for clear, and yes, I have inserted the magazine, because our next check is magazine ejection or release. With the gun upside down and slide back, we get a kick. That's from the right side. Let's try the other side. Yes, so we have magazine ejection. Magazine release is a little stiff on the left side of the gun. Right side of the gun works pretty easily. Magazines are marked at 5, 10, and 13 rounds. And one of the things that attracted me to this, and it's the same thing that I like about the TH9C, which I reviewed several years ago, is it is a safety or decock, and you can go safety even after decock. So you have multiple different modes to carry this in. I would prefer decock. That way you've got that long, heavier double action first shot. Every shot thereafter, shorter, lighter, crisper, single action. That means not having to mess with any levers. It also means having a little more time to, if your shot has to come at a time when there are people running around, loved ones, strangers, who cares what it is, when there's movement and chaos like a defensive situation, sometimes having a little bit longer trigger can save a life. Speaking of trigger, since we're here, that single action, we've got a little bit of resistance, take up to a wall, very crisp break. Our reset is moderate, not too short, but not excessively long either, and took us just before that wall for another break. The double action pull is heavier and kind of stageable. There's no defined wall, but you can feel it. It's definitely something that takes a little more weight and is going to require a little more practice, which we will do in the range video. And now on to looking at the fit, finish, and features of the gun. Noticed right away this indentation here that's on both sides. That was something I appreciated about the TH9C as an index point, reference point, or rest for the support thumb. It is a little slick, however, but it at least helps you build a good grip and know where to put your hands, develop some memory points. I find that type of thing to be very helpful for newer shooters or shooters who are in training, which, let's be honest, shooters in training is all shooters all the time. You never stop learning. Coming up to the front of the gun, we can see our it's about a 4¼ inch barrel, protrudes slightly from the muzzle. There is some slight crowning there, it appears, yes, to protect the rifling. We do have some slide to frame play, as can be expected when you end up with longer slides like this. 2 slots of rail underneath, as well as that divot there. I'm curious what that's for. I'm sure someone knows. If so, please share with us. We have a little bit of a scalloping of the trigger guard for those who want to do the support hand finger forward grip style. The undercut for the trigger guard is nice and rounded. It's not going to be causing any hot spots or high points on the finger there if you're to take this through an extended course of fire. You can see we have gentle suggestions of finger grooves that almost line up for my hands. Not quite, but they are not so obtrusive that it's going to cause an issue. And my pinky does fall slightly below the end of the frame, somewhat like it does for me on a Glock 19, but not so low that I fear getting pinched on magazine insertion. The traction is provided by this kind of fissure stipple. You can see that tends to grab very well. One thing to keep in mind with that, as you can see on this old TH9C, is it does start to collect up dead skin and dirt. Ew. Not impossible to clean, just got to hit it with a brush. The interchangeable back straps are fixed by just knocking out that roll pin there and then change. In fact, since it is a tradition on this channel to be extra thorough, let's take a look at what those do. So the one that came on the gun, my hand fits very nicely. This part meat of my palm fitting perfectly into that curve there, very comfortably. My trigger finger ends up at the end of that pad there. And if I want to, I can overreach on the trigger just slightly. Controls are all still within reach. Let's see what happens when I change that back strap. Now, I'm sorry I could not show you that process on camera. YouTube is very strict against wanting people to know how to properly and safely use their firearms and doesn't allow such modifications to be shown. I did it using the included tool, and I misspoke earlier when I said this was for the sights. The sights, obviously, I mean, it is adjustable, but it's not like a target sight. However, it does have one side that is set up perfectly for pushing a roll pin and stopped exactly where I needed to stop to be able to change the strap without losing the pin. What was in the gun was marked M. I have now swapped it for, this is marked G, and it appears that G is for small. I don't speak Portuguese, so I can't really speak to it. It's not changed my reach to the trigger guard. It has changed my reach and feel around on the grip here. Yeah, got the same reach there. Maybe my thumb reach is a little bit farther. We'll try the third strap. And now we've got the strap marked P1. This feels smaller. I'm definitely reaching further around the gun than before. Not much change up top here, of course, because it's not really changing this distance. All the change is down here. But it feels like the P1 is going to be the size you're going to want for smaller hands. Can't tell. You know, it's still plenty of grip for me, so I think I'm going to leave this one on in case Ms. Tia is able to join us for the range video. Other than that, you can see some slight beveling here at the bottom. Not a whole lot, but it does have that all-important tail that I like to use for inserting a magazine for reloading. I found that to be the easiest way to do it. Yeah, I can definitely feel with this P1 on here, I can grab more. So much to the point that when the magazine catch engaged, I felt it on my finger on the other side. Slide to frame fit in the back. A little loose as can be expected, even with, oh yeah, with the hammer locked, it's even looser. There you can see our sight picture. We've got a serrated black dot rear and a white dot front. And our controls are all ambidextrous. We'll try slide lock and release for the left-handed side. Works to lock and works to release without much extra effort. That's a nice touch. You know, for all the guns that have this, not all of them are really that useful. Sometimes I find I'm not strong enough to use that side, but this one did it. If I've got my hand in a firing hand grip, oh, the catch is not, there you go, you gotta really get it in place. Can I release from the side? Yes, but it takes a little bit of effort. I'm sure that's something that will break in. Next, we'll field strip the TH45 and take a look inside the gun. Field stripping the TH45 is pretty nice and simple. First, we're going to check for clear, and then we're going to pull down on these takedown tabs on both sides of the gun while bringing the slide just back a touch. You'll feel the levers come down further, and then we can remove our slide off the top. No need to pull the trigger. A note on doing that process, as well as racking the gun, etc., for those who have issues with hand strength, etc., if you manually cock the hammer first, you'll find you'll have an easier time, because then you're not fighting the mainspring as you're trying to move the slide. That released, we can get a look inside. There we go. Thank you, camera, for joining us. This polished feed ramp there. Everything looks fairly beefy. Good rail thickness, I like that. And the gun shipped fairly dry. Now, something that I do not recommend, but it's something that we do as a worst case scenario, is we run our guns in the shooting videos as they come right out of the box. That means not adding any oil. This is a gun that I would prefer to add oil to first, but as a preparation for worst case scenario consumer experience, you'll see us shoot it dry. If we have issues, we will then apply oil. Since it's a Browning system, the rest of the field strip is pretty easy. Remove that dual recoil spring. I like that. Dual springs like this tend to make it a little easier to rack. They also tend to do a better job reducing felt recoil. Tap down on our barrel, forward, back and out. Gives us a look inside of our slide. Pretty standard construction style. Looks like these are Glock pattern sights. I'll have to confirm that. That'll be confirmed and in the article. That's just my initial impressions. Wonder where that pin sticks down there. If it was driven too far or not. Well, I don't feel any issues operating the gun so far, so hopefully we're good. Nice polished feed ramp. Some slight chamfering around the edge of the chamber, and it is definitely a dirty bore from being test fired. We'll do our chamber fitment test. I don't have any super special 45 ammo on hand, so it's just some PMC bronze. We're going to drop this in the chamber, listen for plunk. Yes, can it rotate freely? A little bit of friction there, but it's also a slightly dirty bore. But the important part is I'm not feeling any hang up beyond it just being possibly gritty. Is that exact science? No, but I've done this a few hundred times and I kind of have an idea for it. Now we're looking for chamber support. We're looking for anything beyond the bends that is exposed, and there is next to nothing exposed. This is a fully supported chamber. That is excellent, because should you have bore obstruction, God forbid, or a failure of the casing of any sort, where it's not supported is where it's going to want to blow out. Usually that's at the bottom of the feed ramp, sending those forces into your hand. This being a fully supported chamber greatly helps reduce the risk of that. Now I'll reassemble by simply inverting the disassembly process. As I do that, I'll tell you about what's in the range video. You'll see absolute first shots through the gun. The first time this gun is fired by us will be on camera, as well as any initial thoughts that come from that. We'll do full magazine +1 to see how these guns run and these magazines are fully stuffed. Take it over the What's for Dinner table. I believe I still have 10 different loads of 45 to see what the gun will eat and how it performs with those loads. Then to the spinner for sights and trigger control. Should be fun with a 45. Do some practical accuracy and then give you concluding thoughts. Interesting choice of barrel length. The 4 1/4-ish size is very much like a Commander length 1911, but this is giving you 13 rounds instead of 7 or 8. 14 when you do 13 plus 1. So twice the capacity, the ability to decock, lighter weight, possibly better ergonomics. We'll see. So far, I'm pretty impressed. I think it is positioning itself as an excellent value gun for those looking for a bigger gun and carrying 45. Look forward to seeing you guys on the range. Thanks for watching.